Yo, my fantasy football friends, welcome to the Multiple First Dynasty Football channel here on YouTube. This is Tony coming back at you with my co-host Greg the Philosiraptor. We are bringing you some new fantasy content. The summer break has been over. We're back on the grind. We're getting ready for the season. We're what, like 40 days away from the first game, a little bit more than that. I'm psyched to be here. We got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about the quarterback rankings, the Dynasty quarterback top 30. We're going to be looking at buys and sells along that list. And then my co-host had a very eventful time off, and we're going to be checking in with him on that. How are you doing today, Mr. Greg?
Oh, I'm excited to be back. I'm excited, getting hyped for the regular season. For gosh, even my legacy redrafts. I know you've got a couple of those are coming up. Work leagues and all of this. I'm just getting locked back in. I know we were hoping to get one more show out to you guys before we took a couple of week break. Tony and I both had some summer vacation kind of stuff coming up. We didn't get that out, so we didn't get a chance to say goodbye, see you later. But we're back. And I am locked in from my couple of week brain vacation that I need to take every summer. Because this is a 52 week a year endeavor that we're engaged in here.
Oh, yeah, dude, the downtime's important. It's that was like the whole month of June. Most all of it was just. I don't think I made any free agent transactions. A couple of them. I don't know if I even made a trade. Maybe one. Yeah, but it was just like crickets across all my leagues too. But like now things are starting to come back up though. I'm seeing a lot more free agent transactions and seeing some trades go through, getting offers, talking to people. So you can tell it's starting to creep back up. We're going back up the chain on the roller coaster. Click, 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 click right now.
Absolutely.
As we're building up to the season, so I'm pretty excited for it.
I believe today is the first day of main camp, of veterans camp for a lot of teams. Also, guys, so one of the reasons you may have seen some free agent transactions this week is we got official preseason pup designations, which means you may have some guys you can free throw on your IR now and go make some free ads. So like that actually got me back into it was kind of like a trigger for me to get back into making all my moves. I went through all my leagues, see if I've got any IR eligible guys. Rashad Bateman. I know in our league of record, with our team of record, I threw Chase Claypool on the IR. He actually came off the IR the next day, but in the meantime, I was able to add Keyshawn Vaughn, right? So we're just at the very beginning of, get those dynasty rosters in shape time. But this is right when I added Jerick McKinnon in a couple of my leagues last year, right? So
championship caliber move right there. That's picking up league winners off the wire, and that's what we're all about. Yep.
Exactly. Before they get to camp, it's real hard to do that. But once they start getting to camp and you hear just like a whisper, it's time to start making those back of the roster moves.
Yeah, I was picking up. I think I got some Isaiah Pacheco at this point in the offseason last time. Maybe not. I don't know. That was more like just post rookie draft type. But yeah,
maybe. But you get those out of nowhere guys, right? A couple of years ago you were hearing Tyson Williams in Baltimore or whatever, right? Those are the things that come up right about now.
All right, so thanks for joining us today, friends. We have our listener league coming up here. We're going to be sending out invites to the Multiple First Dynasty Football League of Record. We got Greg and myself right here, Stoshx and the Philosiraptor, and then we got 10 empty spots. We're going to be bringing in some listeners, some friends. If you're hearing this, you're welcome to join in. We're going to be sending out invites this coming weekend, the final weekend of July. DM me, DM Greg, leave a comment on this video, and we'll be picking 10 randomly out of that group. So look for an invite this weekend. It's going to be free to enter, and we're going to have some prizes. We'll have some sweet prizes, some prizes of unspeakable value, if you will. It's going to be fantastic. But get in here, join us. It's going to be a sweet league. We're going to slow draft it. We're going to slow draft it through, have some week in August where we get that done. But please join us. I'm excited to have us in there. That's a DM Stoshx or the Philosiraptor. You can also hit up Greg at his Twitter handle at FF Dynasty DGen. And just DM him your sleeper ID or tag him with your sleeper ID there.
On Twitter
Yeah.
or X, if that's what we're doing now.
X, yeah.
X.com.
Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't seem like a great idea to me.
No.
Or you can leave your sleeper ID in the comments on this video.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and now I just also want to say several of you have already let me know that you want to be involved, or have let Tony know. And we've got your names on a list, right? This is so like, you don't need to send that in again. For those of you who have already let us know. But if you haven't, one more chance here, guys.
Look at this big, beautiful blank draft board. We're just going to fill this up with a gazillion football players, and it's going to be great, and I can't wait for it. So speaking of drafting and filling up a draft board, Greg had an awesome break there. You participated in something that is a hallmark of the fantasy community. Why don't you tell us a little about that?
Oh, yeah. So I was fortunate enough to get offered a spot in Scott Fish Bowl 13. For those of you who don't know, Scott Fish Bowl is a large format redraft tournament for charity. It's 3,300 spots, and so you get all of the big name people in the industry, right? Like Matthew Berry and the footballers, and big people in the Dynasty industry.
Field Yates. Yeah.
Yeah, your John Bosches, and I'm going to just name drop all over the place here, right? Like, Izzy Elkafas, all these guys, everybody's in it. A lot of the big DFS people do it, right? So like it brings people from all elements of the fantasy community: the Devi people, the Dynasty people, the redraft people, the DFS people. Everybody plays. You go make a nice donation to Fantasy Cares. We raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for kids to get kids in need to get toys at Christmas time. And Scott Fish does a wonderful job running this. And then every year there's like a crazy, wacky new format, right? And so this year's crazy, wacky format involved, so it's like a Superflex, but with point per carry and point per first down, and like ridiculous tight end premiums. So like regular players get 1 point per catch, 1 point per reception, and 1 point per first down. Tight ends get 2 points per reception and 2 points per first down.
That's insane. Yeah,
that's insane, right?
Yeah. Right. Two per. Yeah, Kelsey's like a top 3 pick then.
I had him 101.
Yeah.
I had him 101.
Yeah.
And then, but there's also 0.1 point per completion and 0.25 point per carry. So your running quarterbacks play up real big.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's kicker scoring, and you can play kickers and flexes.
Okay.
And you score. So you score for a 35-yard field goal. You score 3.5 points. For a 42-yard field goal, you score 4.2 points. And for an extra point, because that's a 33-yard field goal, you score 3.3 points.
Okay, all right, that's a lot then. Yeah, kickers are scoring a lot of points then with PHCs very high. Yeah.
You can flex them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I probably would just be flexing all tight ends like that though. So is that the format you played in? Was this insane scoring?
That's the format for every league.
Okay.
For all of Scott Fish.
Yeah. And
it's 11 week. So you play in your group for 11 weeks, and then, if you win a certain number of games, you advance to the next level, and then however many highest scoring teams to fill out the number of people, and then so the week 12, week 13, week 14, the percent of the people drops out, and then week 17 championship week, the highest scoring team wins.
Yeah.
So in a massive tournament like this, you're also looking to do things like have unique builds and have unique stacks and things like that could sort of skeleton key your playoff weeks.
Yeah, thread the needle. Yeah.
Right.
Let's take a look at your team you drafted here in the Scott Fishbowl redraft tournament extraordinaire. Looks like you were in the 105 slot. Looks like they're doing a third round reversal in this league. I picked that up.
Yep.
So I'm happy that a major tournament like that is using that format because I think that is a more balanced approach to a fantasy draft. So I support that always. Just my opinion. Maybe you don't share it. I don't know. But
No,
yeah.
I think that's definitely something that we're going to see more of, because I think we have seen in recent years that those high picks are actually worth too much.
Just it's overvalued. Yeah, and to have two other players in the top 25, top 30
Right.
is just to pair with that makes your team just overwhelming. So
I agree with that.
But yeah, you got Lamar Jackson as the fourth quarterback up the board at the 105. I love that. Why don't you take us through it a little bit?
Yeah, so I took. I actually looked for a division that had a fifth seed open, or a fifth slot open, because I wanted Lamar Jackson. That was the bet I wanted to place.
Right.
Was Lamar Jackson. What I really wanted was Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews on the comeback, and that didn't come back to me. He went 204.
Close. Yeah.
But so yeah, I think Lamar Jackson in this format with the point per carry has the point, and
There's 6 point passing touchdowns too, right?
Yeah, but there's yes. The other thing is, it's a point per rushing first down or receiving first down, but there's no point per first down for passing.
Okay. So he's going to run for a bunch of them.
Yeah. So I think that these rushing quarterbacks have certain extra upside here. And they don't necessarily need to be huge, big play guys. They need to be they need to be moving the chains. So I think Lamar Jackson was the way I wanted to start. Tyreek Hill, man, I think he's got a chance to be.
It's a tremendous pick. He could be the number one player in fantasy.
I think he's got a chance to be the wide receiver one.
Wide receivers
are a little devalued in this format. So you see what I did. I actually spent 3 of my first 5 picks on wide receivers, and then I went real light at that position everywhere else, so I could bulk up at running back.
Is it a 3 wide start? It's
a start 3 wide.
Okay, and I like the start then a lot. We'll start 3 wide. Get 3 great ones right there with the Hill, Olave, and Smith. Get your quarterback situated. For a I don't know if you call it a 0 RB when you take one in the 6th round, but a 0 RB in spirit.
Should have gone longer, but
but Dobbins is the first one for that. Is great.
One of the nice things for me is Dak at 308 is too late.
Yeah, that's a value. That's a heck of it. That's probably
that's the 7th. So in I think I forget how it's 275 divisions. I believe that's the 8th lowest spot for Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, shout out to the Spike Week website, doing a great job with analytic tools. But yes, and that gave me a unique start. So I'm the only person in Scott Fish with Lamar, Tyreek, and Dak. And that I like for
pretty nice.
Right, for the variance for the late season. Like, am I going to win this? No, but like, you give yourself a shot when you have some variance.
Unique combination of players, yeah.
How do you feel about Freiermuth and Dulcich, given everything?
I love Freiermuth as tight end 11. I think he's definitely going to grow from there. You can kind of see a little riff in your draft, though, where, like, if I'd have told you were definitely going to get Dulcich in the 10th, would you have taken Freiermuth in the 7th? Because you see only one tight end goes in that 3-round stretch, right?
They're good flexes, though. I really feel like
you probably start both of them most weeks. It's just
I think I'm probably going to have to start both of them most weeks. Yeah. And then, Dobbins, Akers, James Cook. I think James Cook got some really good news this week with the Nyheim Hines injury. Right. I think that's very safe. And then the other thing you see I did was I stacked up heavily, right? So, like, Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Zay Flowers, Justin Tucker, and then Isaiah Likely, right?
Yeah, I like
So
the
like,
likely. Yep. The Tucker's great. I in any redraft format, I love getting my kicker and my quarterback on the same team. That's always something I'm targeting. So I love that you did that here.
oh, that's interesting.
Mm.
And so my thought there is like, okay, so what's the story you tell where you win a big tournament? And like you can use this in the big best ball tournaments and any kind of these large tournament, or even some of these mega Empire League Dynasty tournaments, is like, what's the story where I come out at the top of a very high a lot of teams, and it's like, well, you want to correlate some of your risk together, right?
Yep.
And so the story here is, what if Baltimore Miami in championship week is a huge game with my Lamar and Tyreek, but Andrews is out.
Yep.
Right, like that's how
likely tremendous. Yeah.
right. That's how you come to the top. And then Generic Prince was going undrafted in a lot of leagues, but that I think one of the things everybody likes to talk about is who's your last round dart. I really like that. I'm gonna have a lot of him a lot of exposure to him in dynasty formats and deep formats. I think, I don't know, like I just don't feel safe about Isaiah Pacheco.
I don't even feel safe about Prince. They're the long-term running back of the Chiefs may not even be on their roster right now.
Oh, for sure.
So like it's all up in the air with that.
Okay, well, speaking of long-term running backs, we got a little news.
Yeah.
Just this morning, Saquon Barkley came in to camp and signed his 1-year deal. There's no long-term answer at running back anywhere, man. There's Atlanta, and that's it.
1-year deal. I can't believe he signed and took a 1-year deal. Like you know what I mean? I have to imagine he was willing to hold out for a multi-year, and it only the tender he was going to sign was going to have him at 10, and now he's at over 11. So they gave him about $1 million or so just to sign, and he still got a 1-year deal out of it. I mean, the running backs have no leverage, none. I mean, this is just puts it on blast right there. The RBs have nothing. They have no negotiating platform whatsoever with these teams, and it's sick.
I think it's really sad. It's not that sad. It's going to make $10 million. Right? It's only so sad that he's only going to make $11.5 million to play a game this year. And of course, the people who are always getting taken advantage of in all of this are the people who play 3 or 4 years and never get off their rookie deal. Like those are the people who, Yeah. But that said, I just you and I were talking before the record. Bijan Robinson's the highest paid running back in the league this year because
by like $1 million too. I mean, there's a gap. Like there's a gap there, and it's all because his rookie pay scale slot at number 9 is greater than the entire running back market. I mean, what does that say? That's insane.
Jahmyr Gibbs isn't that far off it.
Yeah, he's like 9 or 10 on the list. I was just looking at it. Ridiculous. The tag would have made him number 10 or so on the list, around $10 million, or number 8 rather. But I don't know. Does this make you feel better about Daniel Jones this season or long term?
No. No, I kind of think Daniel Jones had a lot of efficiency metrics that scream regression to me. Like I don't want to call him a sell because I don't think he's schemed up too much. But I'm not in love with it. I do think it should tell you that Josh Jacobs is going to come to camp. Like that would be my read. My first read is like Josh Jacobs is going to play this year. He's not going to hold out all year. If Saquon doesn't believe he has leverage to hold out, Josh Jacobs isn't going to hold out. Well, that's my guess.
Jacobs has to be looking at this contract and saying, would I have signed this deal? This deal that Saquon just got, would I get it? Would I sign it if I got it from the Raiders? And, if his answer is no, I would expect more. Then now we're at major odds, right? So, but yes, if he would take this deal, then he probably will get it and play.
So the deal is Saquon basically got $1.5 million to come to camp.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's getting like $1.5 million more than the franchise tag.
Correct.
And so if you just want to play on the franchise tag, you can sign that the day. So Saquon, having signed this, now if he's not in camp, he can be fined.
Yeah, but he'll be there.
So, right. But like Jacobs, because he's not under contract, cannot be fined.
Okay.
So he can show up the day before he can show up and sign his tag the day before the season and get all 17 game checks. Right. So the question with Jacobs is a little bit also like, did Saquon get enough to come to camp? With like $1.5 million to come to camp.
Yep.
But like
For him, he did.
but I
In his
think
own mind.
for Saquon, it did. But like,
Yeah.
that's also like if you really want to have a big season, you want to probably come to camp. Showing up a little out of shape and signing your tag the day before it's due is a little bit like playing hardball with your team because they're playing hardball back. Blah blah blah. But Jacobs has to know that he's not getting more than this contract.
Yeah.
Right.
I think. Yeah. I mean, doesn't have the same body of work. Well, I don't know. Maybe. We can go around it a lot, but we got more to cover here today.
But if I had a thing that I were going to come at with this, it would be like maybe buy the dip on Jacobs if there's a discount right now.
I would too, but I'm not selling him cheaper, and I own him a fair clip. But so we wanted to do a rundown here in the off season. There's more news. There's DeAndre Hopkins signed with the Tennessee
Titans.
Titans.
Piece of news.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about. How do you feel about that?
I feel like I don't really care that much. I'm not trying to buy him off of that. I think if you bought the dip on Hopkins as a free agent, you're probably happy. But like, it's weird because of the quarterback tumult. This means bad things for Treylon Burks. Not that I felt great about him anyway. I don't know. It gives me a little bit more excitement if Levis gets in there. I don't care about the Titans pass catchers that much though, generally.
Okay. Yeah. So a couple of things for me. The first thing I thought was this is a move that says they want Tannehill to play all year.
Yeah.
And they want Derrick Henry to play for them all year, and they don't intend to trade Derrick Henry at the deadline and start Will Levis 8 games. Like, this is a move made because Tennessee would like to compete with Jacksonville for that division title. Like, they want Ryan Tannehill to keep them in the division race and start all 17 games. Mm-hmm. So kind of my first thought was like, oh, Ryan Tannehill is a good value for your quarterback 3 if you need one.
Yeah.
Because they had the look of a team that might reset at the bye week before this move to me. Mm-hmm. My second take on it is I don't hate it for Burks because I think this could be a situation like we see in Tennessee, like we've seen in Philadelphia, where 2 receivers stack up a very high share of the work, or like we see in Miami.
Yeah.
I think this is a really bad news item for Chico Okonkwo, where you were kind of looking at that. Like, why was Chico Okonkwo over Greg Dulcich? Why was Chico Okonkwo trading higher than like David Njoku?
Yeah, just because that underneath game for Tennessee, where he's going to be that target for Tannehill, which he's going to need. Yeah.
The complete lack of other options.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
Like you felt like you had this locked in huge volume. All of a sudden, he's shuffled down to the target number 3. There are a lot of tight ends that are their team's target number 3. So now he's the number 3 in a low volume passing offense. I don't love that.
Yep.
To me, that good for Tannehill. I don't think it's terrible for Burks. Negative for Okonkwo significantly. That's kind of my take.
It's not that bad for Burks because they had plenty of targets to go around. So if any, it might. You could even make the case that maybe it's good for him. Now that I'm sitting here dwelling on it more, but like
maybe good for his floor, bad for his ceiling.
Yeah, that seems fair. Yeah, and it might be good for his overall career arc of development to have a guy like Hopkins there, if only for one season. So that's interesting. But I'm not thrilled for the future of Treylon. It's just me.
Do you kind of agree with me about Tannehill? Like, this is very good news for Tannehill.
Yeah, it helps him a lot. It's nice that they're making investments to help him out. What's Tannehill's contract? How long is he even under contract for? Is this the last year of his deal?
Oh, let me go check that out. While I'm checking that out, why don't we? I'll have that for you by mid show. We're actually going to go through. Oh, you got it.
Yeah, this is the last year of his contract, and they had an out entering it, and he has no. He's got void years in 24 and 25.
So they had an out, but they didn't. They're not. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have a big out next year, so they might just see you later.
Sure, but like there are a lot of guys. So, I mean, are you counting on Aaron Rodgers past this year? Are you counting on Kirk Cousins past this year? You know what I mean?
Well, we can get into it, baby, because we got quarterbacks on the docket right here.
Right. Like my thought with Tannehill is that I can count on him for more of this year than I thought. All right, let's talk about quarterback. So we were going to do some a quick look through the positional landscape at all four positions, starting this episode with quarterbacks, right?
Yes, sir.
And we were going to use Dynasty League Football (DLF) their startup ADP for Superflex. We
Yeah,
are a Superflex themed show.
you got their ADP listed right here. Obviously, you see Pat Mahomes is the number 101 consensus on TLF Superflex leagues, what overall quarterback they're being drafted at, and then you got the age over here in the far column. We got the top 12 for you right here, and Greg and I just have some takes on who's a buy, who's a sell, who's too high, who's too low off of this list here. Why don't you go first?
Yeah, well, so let me just read them out in case
Yep.
anybody's listening to this while they're driving or whatever.
Mhm.
So, quarterback 1, Mahomes; 2, Josh Allen; 3, Jalen Hurts; 4, Joe Burrow; 5, Lamar Jackson. That's up a couple spots
Yep.
from earlier this offseason. 6, Justin Herbert; 7, Trevor Lawrence; 8, Justin Fields; quarterback 9, Dak Prescott; 10, Deshaun Watson; quarterback 11, Tua Tagovailoa; and quarterback 12, Anthony Richardson. So, Tony, who do you think is too high on this list?
The two hires, the people who should come down, I think Deshaun Watson's a little high at 10.
Okay.
There's definitely players I like on this list below him for sure. With the team being the wild card team that they are in the Browns, most of the pundits, the projectionists, they don't even know what to do with them. I mean, you see a lot of variance when it comes to the Browns this year. We saw Deshaun throw for what was it, 8 touchdowns and 7 picks last year, or 10-7 I think. His touchdown to interception was pretty bad in the games he played. He only had like under 60% completion percentage. I forget the number off the top of my head, but his completion percentage was low. I hate the weather, and I'm not putting my money on Deshaun Watson this year, and I wouldn't draft him as the quarterback 10 off the board. I like Richardson more too. Just give me a little bit more there.
Dak in a similar spot.
I like Dak more. Yeah, he's ahead on this list, but I do like Dak a lot more than Watson.
Okay. I mean, I don't think you have to pay much to get up from
Right.
Watson to Dak.
Yeah.
You can, yeah. Okay, so you could probably trade from Watson into Dak for very little.
You can do that. Yeah.
Like if you had a Watson share and you want a Dak, I mean, what do you have to? What are you giving up? You're giving up, some like a speculative running back or something. You know what I mean? Third round picks, Chase Brown, because you might find that the Dak owner would go straight across to Watson. So I think that's a good one to look at. For me, I think the player who's too high here is Anthony Richardson.
He's up there already, quarterback 12.
Yeah. So I just think all of the ceiling is baked in here and not enough of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I want to do this, I'm just going to try to trade up for Justin Fields. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like Lawrence, I'd probably just go after Lawrence if I could, but there's a gap there in ADP, so you're going up a tier. But yeah.
But I just think it's very dangerous to have. The ADP here is 18, but he's the 16th highest player off the board, right? So that's like he's going around the 204. I think I'd rather take a gamble around later on some of the other guys and have an elite player in this spot, I think, than Anthony Richardson. I love Anthony Richardson, man. I was in on Anthony Richardson very early in the process. I remember a buy high for me very early this year was buy the quarterback 4.
Yeah.
Or buy the 104 rookie pick.
Whatever it is.
Anthony Richardson's going to steam up, and you're going to get 4 elites, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been very in on Anthony Richardson for a long time. I think we've sort of blown past reasonable here a little bit.
Yeah. Who do I got as a too low? Yeah, I mentioned Dak Prescott. That is my buy off of this list. I mean, we saw him at a 20 point per game clip last season in the Dallas Cowboys with only 12 games played, and I would see that as a floor for him entering this season. I think he can definitely perform that again. I love the situation, love the offense. The stadium. Let's go Cowboys because I think they're gonna. Dak should perform. I mean, I I don't see a universe where he's ever outside the top 10 a quarterback, but that's me.
Yeah, I mean, as a point per game player, he's been as high as I think quarterback 4,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been a quarterback 12 or better like 4 times in a row. So I just think there's a lot of safety there. Like he's almost being drafted at his floor.
Yeah.
Like if he regresses off of previous performance by 5%,
Yeah.
then he still meets his ADP here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the one thing you got to note is like 12 months from now he'll have a 3 at the front of his age, and people get squirrely about that.
And he starts to go down pretty aggressively after that. Yeah.
But I don't think like you need to actually worry about that. I think I mean that's 4 years really. I feel pretty comfortable with 32-year-old quarterbacks. And he's only 29, right? Right as of today. So I don't think that's too big of a worry, except for his resale value. I like Dak a lot. The other thing is, there has been a real narrative street thing going on where Mike McCarthy's taking over the play calling. It's going to be terrible for the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at what they did this offseason. Like, they added Brandon Cooks. They let Zeke go without replacing him. And Mike McCarthy, in all of the years he was the play caller in Green Bay, they never had a pass rate as low as the Cowboys had last year. I think the passing actually is going to go up, not down. If you look at their moves and you look at Mike McCarthy's history, I don't think this is going to be a run team like so many people think, because of that one quote McCarthy gave 4 months ago where he said, I'd rather lead the league in what did he say? I'd rather lead the league in wins than.
I don't remember. I didn't think I saw it, but yeah.
He said something like, I don't want to lead the league in points. I want to lead the league in wins. And you got to control the ball to do that, right? Yeah. So like people are like, oh, they're going to run the football 100 times a game this year. Like, that's not his history, man. That's not his history. That was when Kellen Moore left, the old OC, right?
Yep.
My too low out of these quarterback ones is Justin Herbert at quarterback 6.
Love it.
Man, I just like we've said, like Lamar Jackson. I don't want to take Lamar Jackson over Justin Herbert, because we have seen that one ceiling year with Lamar Jackson and all of that, but we've already seen a ceiling year out of Justin Herbert too. He didn't score as many points as Lamar Jackson, but he scored a lot. But this is a pass first quarterback who has already finished as the quarterback 1 in point per game 1 year, or 1 or 2 depending on your scoring format. And he's at that age with those metrics. I just that team. He was not healthy last year, and his receivers were all missing. The Chargers were one of the most unhealthy teams in the league last year.
He broke his ribs in week 2, and he still finishes quarterback 6 or something.
I mean, it was not a great. Yeah, I mean, the point per game was a little lower. It was quarterback 11, but he wasn't running at all because he can run. He was not running because of the broken ribs. We saw him as the quarterback 1 or 2 years ago, right? He was a quarterback 1 as a rookie, as a top 10 pick. The profile here is just huge. I actually like him more than Joe Burrow because I know the safety with Joe Burrow, but we actually haven't seen a true ceiling season out of Joe Burrow, really.
Yeah, he throws for 5,500 yards or something.
Yeah. And he does not seem to have as much willingness to run. And he's older than Justin Herbert.
Yes, he is.
Right? So there's a lot of reasons for me to have Justin Herbert as the quarterback 4. I actually think you could talk me into Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts.
Quarterback 3. Yeah, I mean, we saw a year ago this time Herbert, people were taking Herbert as the 101, me trying to be hipsters about it. And then, we saw more of a down year and he slipped down this list, but he's got every bit the upside to be the 101 quarterback in fantasy any given season. I love Justin Herbert. I have so many shares and I
absolutely
don't ever plan on selling any of them. He's the man. Yeah.
I love Trevor Lawrence so much, but you look here, ADP 6.25 for both players.
Yeah.
Like, give me the guy who's done it.
Yes.
Right? Like we're projecting Trevor Lawrence to do what Justin Herbert did in 2021.
Yeah,
So
it
that's
just reads like they're in the same tier because they do have that same ADP of 6.25. I see what you're saying, Lawrence and Herbert, but Herbert has big strides ahead of Lawrence in terms of fantasy value.
he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has done a lot already. So that for me, that's my bargain there. All right, let's look at the quarterback twos.
Love it. Quarterback twos, quarterbacks 13 through 24 on the list right here. So we got, I'll go through these real quick. Kyler Murray is the DLF ADP quarterback 13, followed by rookie Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, quarterbacks 14 and 15. Then we have Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff at quarterback 20, and then Jordan Love, Kenny Pickett, Brock Purdy, and Aaron Rodgers rounds us out as the 24th quarterback in DLF Superflex Dynasty rankings, or ADP, I should say.
All right. Let's do it the other way around this time. Let's talk about bargains.
All right, the bargains on this list. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start. To me, I think Kyler Murray is the quarterback 9.
Okay.
I think that this is a value. By the way, this is steaming up. I added a share about 6 weeks ago, and I'm real glad I did, because he was getting drafted in third rounds 6 weeks ago. Last year in startups, it was
Kyler was like the
Mahomes,
7th player.
Yeah. He was fourth or fifth. Man. Yeah. It was Mahomes, Allen, and Herbert. Those were your top 3. Mm-hmm. And then it was, do you like Burrow more or do you like Kyler more? And he was fine by points per game last year.
Yeah.
His points per game finish was
when he played. Yeah.
Perfectly good, right? And if you actually do a little statistical look at how quarterback. So, by the way, so he was 9th in points per game last year, right? So fine, absolutely fine. Quarterback 1. He's 25 years old. He's got the big second contract, and if you actually look at how quarterbacks perform off of serious leg injuries, shoulder injuries are a different story. Leg injuries, really well. Like there's some guys who've come back from leg injuries and really helped you.
Yeah, Brady tore his ACL in 2008 or whatever, 2009.
Right. Yeah. Kyler's a more mobile quarterback, but we've even seen that with some mobile quarterbacks. I just think now is the time to get your Kyler shares, and remember what his ADP was 12 months ago. That's my take on it.
All right, all the 24 mocks that I see coming out, all the 24 rookie mocks have the Cardinals as a top 2 pick taking a quarterback. So I mean that seems odd to me. I mean there's at least some buzz in the inside the league that Kyler's not the answer for this team even after signing that extension. So that's a little concerning.
Well, I mean, first of all, they don't, even if Kyler comes back and has a big season, they have Houston's pick. And if they fall into Caleb Williams, that might be hard for them to pass up.
There, yeah.
Right, it might be hard for them to pass up. But I actually think Kyler's going to come back, play 14 games,
and play at a high level,
and play at a good enough level that they're not really competing for the first pick with their own pick. I think he's going to give you plenty. And listen, Kyler Murray's not going anywhere. Even if he isn't in Arizona, he's going to be somewhere. That contract has to be traded. It can't be just eaten. Mm-hmm. He's only 25 years. To me, this is a very safe play. I like that. Yes, I know the Vegas odds on them taking Caleb Williams. I don't think if they ended up with the 102, I don't think they just move on from Kyler.
It'd be interesting to have those 2 quarterbacks on the team at the same time. I don't know. I'm out on most we said on Kyler. I'm not a Kyler fan. I don't think I have a single Kyler Murray share in any of my leagues. I'm not drafting him even at quarterback 13. I don't think. I have big time concerns over him and his longevity in the NFL with the Cardinals. The size is concerning. The character concerns concern me. I mean, I could definitely see him being productive in the future. I would not advise to go out and buy him. That's just me. But I mean, you make a good case for the other side of it. He's been very productive, and he has seen the ceiling. So
yeah, his point per game finishes.
Choice you have to make
in 4 years in the league are 9, 4, 5, and what is he as a rookie? He was 12. So his 4 years in the league, point per game, 12, 4, 5, 9.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a couple of those guys ahead of him in a couple of those years only played a couple of games, So I think there's quarterback 13 is real floory to me. It's hard for him to underperform that.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Who do
My
you like?
buy off of this list will be on the other end of the spectrum, which would be quarterback Aaron Rodgers at quarterback number 24. So when a player like this gets traded to the Jets, and I thought this when Brady moved on to the Bucks, and there's a lot of parallels here. I think at these late stages of career, these Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks changing teams. So that's the themes I take away from this. But when a player moves teams like that, I'm projecting they're going to play at least 2 seasons. So there is a chance Rodgers retires at the end of this year, but I think you have to think he's going to play this and next season. So with 2 seasons ahead of him and what should be pretty elite productive ones, I mean, what is that worth in fantasy if for sure you only get those 2 years? And again, you look back at Brady and where he was drafted, and I think if you were someone who was taking Brady in round 7, round 8, you were doing really well. Round 6 when he was producing in Tampa Bay for the first couple years. So with that in mind, I would say Rodgers should be, with 2 seasons ahead of him, up no lower than where Kirk Cousins is. He should be in the 17, 18 area, based on body of work, that offense that's there. That's with 2 seasons. If you know he's going to retire at the end of this year, maybe lower. But even then, you're threading the needle, and quarterback 24 is just way too low for Dynasty ADP for Aaron Rodgers, for me.
Yeah, so I'm pretty out on Rodgers, and you have, and you're right that 24 is still too low.
It is, yeah.
But I'm just gonna say I don't necessarily expect elite seasons. I do agree with you. I expect 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I just I am scared of his age. I know a lot of people, aren't, but
maybe not elite, but like he's got week to week, he's always got that like 5-6 touchdown upside, and I don't know, maybe top 5 is out of it as an end of season finish for him, but like top 15 is pretty high probability.
Maybe, yeah. I do agree that I'd rather have Kirk Cousins than him, but I do agree that he's in the same tier as Kirk Cousins,
yeah.
And he's going 30 ADP spots below Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is probably in his last year in Minnesota, although we keep always saying that, and then he's not. I would rather pay the freight here for a Jared Goff. But like, how do you feel about these young guys like Jordan Love and Kenny Pickett versus Aaron Rodgers? You feel like they've only really got 2 years guaranteed, and you don't feel as good about the short term anyway? Is that kind of how you feel?
That's interesting. Yeah. Love is almost more interesting because of the unknown factor, right, and the physicality. So he's got that ceiling, and just in general, it's the what's behind door number 2 feel of like. So yeah, I like Love probably a little more than this list. That's about right for him, probably 21, but. I would take Rodgers ahead of those guys just because it's all, you start to get into a philosophy of team construction at that point, and where you're at. If I've drafted safe through the first 6 rounds of my league or whatever, or I'm trying to acquire a safe quarterback for my team via trade, I would target Rodgers over Love in those scenarios.
No, that's good. It's yeah, it's hard for me to argue that he shouldn't be, even though I am very skeptical. I think everybody is too confident that he's going to bounce back going to New York just because Garrett Wilson is there. Like, he is going to turn 40 during this season. That's guys, remember, Drew Brees looked real good at 39 and looked real washed up at 40. So that comes for everybody.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady didn't look washed up until he was 44, but is anybody Tom Brady? Is, I guess, the question. Because you could get 5 years out of Rodgers. You could, right?
Yeah.
You could get 5 years and he's not washed up until the 5th year. You could get they win a title this year and he looks great and he signs a 3-year extension. So I do think you should factor that in. I like your pick there.
No, it's interesting. I mean, some of it's like a philosophy question as far as like what are they going to do. I mean, I could see with that defense they have in New York, the running game, all the running backs they have, Rodgers' decision making, they could play a very conservative brand of football. They could, and that might be really bad for Rodgers in fantasy. And that's a legitimate outcome here. So, it's you got to make your own choice on these guys. But I like Rodgers a little more than 24.
I agree with you.
Who's your too high, brother?
So I think Russell Wilson's too high here, man.
Russell Wilson's too high. Quarterback 19.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You, you, a Browns fan, and me, a Broncos fan, both picked our team's quarterbacks as too high, as a little bit overrated.
I
just think that's interesting.
The reality of things.
But man, he is 34 and a half years old, and I just don't buy the. Okay, it's not that I don't think there's a chance that Sean Payton comes in and proves that everything was proves that he's a great coach, and Hackett was a terrible coach, and and everything that was wrong last year was Hackett, and Russ is all the way fixed. Like I think that's in the range of outcomes, right? Yeah. But I think what's not priced in here is the range of outcomes where he's one of the oldest starting quarterbacks in the league. He's the fourth oldest starting quarterback in the league, I think, behind Rodgers, Stafford, and Cousins. And he's only like a couple of months younger than Stafford and Cousins.
Yeah, he is.
Right. And like he was the 20-something best quarterback in the league last year. So he's old and being drafted higher than his finish last year. And like
a lot of red flags.
Maybe he's just really bad now.
Maybe
he can't play anymore. Is like a thing that I think people have to consider here a little bit more when you're looking at quarterback 19. Earlier this offseason, he was going at quarterback 24, 25, and I felt better at those prices.
Yeah.
Because like he was going significantly cheaper than Kirk Cousins or Geno Smith, but now you see him in the same area as Kirk Cousins and Geno Smith, and I just much rather have those guys. He's going ahead of Jared Goff. I'd much rather have Jared Goff. Who's
I'm looking at Jordan Love, and I own Russ a lot, and I'm just like, man, if I would I just send Russ for Jordan Love in my? I think I would. Man, I've been such a paralysis by analysis mode with Russ or a holding pattern. I do have some shares. I was drafting him at a decent clip last year, and I haven't moved off of him at all. And I haven't shopped him at all. But it's scary.
I added some shares in late last year and then early in this offseason where I was getting him for like a second.
That's too low.
So out. Right. But like now I'm pivoting back into selling. Like this is too. People have bought the Sean Payton narrative too much, right? Like it could go well. It really could. But like the range of outcomes here is huge. And I don't think the downside is priced in enough here. That's my take on Russell Wilson.
No, I feel it. My two highs on this list, the guys that I think are overvalued here, are going to be these two rookies jump out at me at quarterback 14 and 15. In a dynasty startup, this is probably a reasonable place for them to be drafted with their age, but like in terms of productivity, I don't see Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, either of them finishing in the top 15 of their position. I mean, you just look at the six guys immediately below them: Jones, Cousins, Smith, Russ, Goff. Like with that Rodgers mentioned earlier, like most of these guys should finish above these two rookies who are going to be on a learning curve, who are not known for being like, both of them run, but they're not extreme mobile quarterbacks. They're not Lamar Jacksons out there. And these two offenses, Houston and Carolina, are probably the worst two offenses in football. They're going to struggle. They're going to have a hard time. You may get occasional starts out of them. But like, I have a hard time seeing these guys at that value, like, in terms of productivity. If you want any sort of production, you got to draft a Jones or a Cousins or someone lower on this list.
Yes. I mean, obviously, like, part of what you're doing if you draft Young or Stroud is you're shooting for asymmetric upside, right?
Yes.
Like, because they could show up and by week 3, you're like, oh, this is another Justin Herbert. This is the quarterback 4. You know what I mean? That's in the range of outcomes, especially I think for Stroud with the physicality.
Yeah.
Right. Like if he shows up and looks real good, Young can never make the height questions go away. But we saw it with Herbert. We saw it, before that, even with Kyler Murray. Like he showed up and was immediately good, and the value spiked. So there is like value spike significant value spike in the range of outcomes. But I think the flip side of that is like the average outcome is if you spend the 30th pick in a startup on these guys, that probably means you're deciding not to compete for a
Yeah,
couple of
and
years.
that's kind of what I'm getting at, I guess, is the skill position players you could have in this round 3 area. I mean, look at these tranches of ADP. Like, Kyler is at 19, and then there's a 10 ADP slot drop to these 3 younger guys in Young, Stroud, and Jones in the 29 to 34 area. And then there's another 8 pick drop to Cousins. So you see this clear young middle tiering of Young, Stroud, and Jones. And I'm just saying, when you're in that portion of the draft, just take a T. Higgins or a Amon-Ra St. Brown or someone like that, and then you could shoot your shot on your QBs later if you want with a Jordan Love or a Pickett, and I don't think you're really losing that much upside relative to what Young
Yeah,
and Stroud are offering, but you're getting a lot
trade
better.
down,
Yeah.
get a Jared Goff and a first round pick next year.
To sit and pick and take one of these rookie QBs at that ADP seems like a mistake to me. Trade that, do something else with the pick even, and let someone else take one of those guys in that area of the draft.
It's tough in a startup. I think if you took them in your rookie draft in an established league and you were already rebuilding, it's a lot more understandable to store
To
your
hold
value
them.
that way.
Yeah.
But it is an awkward spot in a startup draft where it's like I'm committing to some stuff here.
Yes. You don't want to do that with your 3rd pick. I mean, that's still you're only a few hours into the league usually. So.
Right. And if you weren't at the end of the first round, then you don't have your second quarterback. So so now you're back into absolutely. I agree with you. And you can only make that pick if you didn't make certain picks ahead of that, right? Like, so if you had taken like if you took AJ Brown in the second round, you really can't come back in the 3rd round and take CJ Stroud, because those are like, by the time CJ Stroud's the right guy, AJ Brown will be old.
Those
right?
are conflicting viewpoints.
Yeah, so you really have to be a little bit careful. I agree with you. I think those are sketchy, but again, it's also like I don't know who I would have as the dynasty quarterback 14 if not Bryce Young.
Yeah, and it's just, and I don't even think that ADP is bad. If you're someone who is like, there's always multiple people in the league who are not trying to compete up front. I mean, hey, I'm one of them most of the time, but if you're in that role, like, it's a fair spot to take one of these guys. Like, it's a decision you make though, for sure. It's something you got to consider. All right, let's take a look at the QB3s on the list, the undesirables, if you will, the deep sleepers, the guys in quarterback 25 to 36 range. The top of the list: Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Desmond Ridder, Mac Jones. Quarterback 29, Sam Howell. Then Trey Lance, Will Levis, Ryan Tannehill. You see the Levis and Tannehill back to back at 31 and 32 respectively. Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, Hendon Hooker, and Kyle Trask round out the top 36 quarterbacks in terms of ADP Superflex on DynastyLeagueFootball.com. Who's your buy off this list? Is there a value here you see?
Yeah, for me, I think, man, Mac Jones is getting sold short here, right? Like, if you look at these guys, they're all either old or low draft capital players or not starting quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
The only guy who is young, has high draft capital, and has a starting job is Mac Jones. And that's why he doesn't belong with these other guys.
It's clearly an outlier,
to me. And especially, look, I realize we're driving down narrative street here, right? But like, I don't know what Bill Belichick was doing with that coaching decision last
year.
Right? But
as
Matt
an offense coordinator is insane.
Was terrible. I usually don't fall too heavily into narratives about coaching changes. I don't love doing that. But Matt Patricia was so bad. And I just think there's a lot to. Do you remember when Mac Jones was a year ago?
Yeah, no, he was like drafted inside the top 40. I mean, that's where I was advocating for him to be taken. So.
Yeah, and then last season was so awful, and they haven't really fixed the receiving core for him.
Not at all.
No. I mean,
and I think that's why you saw his value fall and just free fall, is because there's no reason for him to stop falling. There's been no good news, other than Patricia being let go, but there's been no positivity to push him back up whatsoever. So he just keeps getting pushed down the list.
Like, I just think he's going to end up looking like a I just think he's going to go back to looking like Derek Carr, but 24 years old. You know what I mean? Like nothing special,
Yeah.
but one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league for sure. And at his age, he's going to start 6-7 more years, and you can plug him in as a quarterback too. And I just think he's eating your fantasy vegetables, and that's not sexy, and therefore he's underpriced.
He's
That's my
eating.
take.
That's a good way to put it. He's fantasy broccoli. Fantasy Brussels
He
sprouts.
is fantasy broccoli, guys. It's good for you. It's good for you.
Yeah, it improves your vision. Everything.
Absolutely. It's
Um,
not fun,
Yeah.
but it's good for you.
I'm taking a lot of shots on Bailey Zappi. I have him rostered deep in a lot of leagues, and you know, I'm not going to sit here and rip Mac Jones. I mean, there's a very high probability he does what he says and rebounds, but I like how Zappi's free and the upside that comes with it. So drop him.
I like how Zappi's free too.
It's nice.
What do you think is underpriced?
Yeah, underpriced on this list. The guys who are too low here. I think Matt Stafford. I'm going to keep running with these veterans. The quarterback 25. So the reasons I like Matthew Stafford here. At only 35 and a half years old, like Greg said, we see these guys play not into their 40s necessarily, but close to 40. So you could see at least 3 productive seasons in Stafford, at least on paper, and that way. And furthermore, on paper, his contract is written through the 2026 season. So he's under contract. There's been his contemporaries have played. He's got an elite head coach. He's got weapons. Maybe, I don't know, elite head. He's got a good head coach and weapons he's produced with in the past. I see Stafford as jumping up this list as we look at the bottom of the previous tier here. I mean, he could get up here ahead of Purdy, Pickett, Goff, Love, Russ, Geno. I mean, Stafford could produce at a top 15 quarterback clip pretty easily. I mean, that's totally within his range of outcomes to do that. You get him pretty low. It's the same argument I made for Rodgers. The value you're getting with that price, with that ADP, in terms of points, is high, and I think there's more longevity here than the market gives him credit for.
I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
I do want to caution that 2 years ago when he had that big blow up season, he only finished 11th in points per game.
Okay.
Because he doesn't run.
Yeah.
At all. Like at all. Now he finished within 1 point per game of quarterback 4, right? You know what I mean? It wasn't like he wasn't that far off, right? So I'm very fond of Matthew Stafford at that price. I considered him as my guy, but I do think the ceiling. I do think the ceiling is a little capped, and there is a lot of risk. But absolutely, like you could take a high quarterback 1, and then come back and take Matt Stafford as your quarterback 2, and get some good luck, and that could win you a league. I like that.
I think I just want to throw it out there quick. I think Ritter is also a little undervalued. He's my 1B with Stafford. Ritter could jump up this list. I mean, you know, like we see with the rookie quarterbacks that are in that 13, 14, 15 area, that's where the kind of the quarterback landscape opens up, right? And that's where guys tend to break in. So you see Ritter's age and his rushing upside and the offensive weapons he has with a good season, and I'm not saying he's going to do this necessarily, but with a good season, he jumps right into that top 15 area.
Yes.
So if you're taking shots on him, it's a high upside ticket that I think is worthwhile at the 8th round price of 94.5 ADP.
Yeah, yep. And so my sell high here is going to be, or my sell player overvalued is going to be Sam Howell. And he's quarterback 29. I don't hate it. For me, he's in this little group here with Ritter and Jones, and I would just much rather have Ritter and Jones.
They so much rather have those two than
Howell.
So
to me, if I have Sam Howell anywhere, I do have him on a couple of spots. I'm going to try to see if I can get to Ritter or Jones, or even Jordan Love or Kenny Pickett for not a lot. Those are the guys I'm going to look to pivot into to see if I can give up not so much to get to those guys, because like Sam Howell was a 5th round draft pick. I just think people need to remember, like, they may be tanking a little bit here.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the deal is, but Sam Howell to me is a little sketchy compared to the guys around him. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is tough to find someone who's too high in this area because it's so murky.
Hmm.
I definitely agree with you. Howell jumps out. In the interest of talking about the other guys, though, I think Hendon Hooker's path to the field is going to be very challenging. I did like him a lot, and I was taking him in the back half of the second round. I maybe might have taken different players at this point, looking at the situation. He's farther away from the field than I would have thought. Um, Trey Lance is. It's hard to dump on a guy at quarterback 30, but he's not going to play. Purdy's going to start the season. It looks like we were thinking
Looks like.
Purdy's injury was the big thing that gave me some hope for Lance, and that doesn't seem to be hindering him at all. So it's just bad news bearish for Trey Lance. He should go down this list. You know,
Yep.
yeah, I wanted to make Levis my too high on this list, but in reality, I think that's a fair spot for him. Yeah.
There you go.
Hmm.
I think those are some good picks. Um, and I do want to mention, I think Ryan Tannehill probably is a little low on ADP after the Hopkins signing. I think the Hopkins signing probably, I might have him up between Jones and Howell or something like that, or ahead of Levis and Lance. Anyway, all right. I
Yo,
think
that's it.
that's a good breakdown.
Thank you so much for joining us, friends and family. We're going to leave you right there, right about an hour. Again, DM me, DM the Philosiraptor. Leave a comment here if you want to get into the listener league. We're going to be sending out invites to that here at the final weekend in July. You're going to start seeing some invites come through. We're going to get that going. Thanks for joining us. Let me know who you think's a buy and a sell off this quarterback list.
Absolutely.
Yeah, take it easy, friends. Good night.